Okay, and we're back in the semi-finals of Binary Stars, the 2v2 Planetary Annihilation Tournament for $200 with ExodusEsports.com. My name is Quitch, and I am joined by my co-caster, TheWrongCat.
Good evening once again.
So, we are just prepping up this second game. We're launching into it very shortly. Best of three again for the semi-finals. We are going to be looking at game N between Trousers and Ponage on the Tarkan system. As I said, I expect to see a massive docks presence. I'm going to see lots of docks running around, swarming everywhere, and maybe some air to try and bomb them. I do not think we'll be seeing much in the way of tanks on these systems. It's so easy to mess up your docks, and my experience of playing on these is that it doesn't work out very well when you do try and go tanks. They're just too slow, they can't respond fast enough.
Well, that said, we've made this observation before, and often you find, at least in the mid game, people do tend to switch up from primarily docks into tanks because they offer you that much more of a hard hitting force where you need it. I wouldn't put that past our players to do that this evening.
I think it's just because there's a lot of mechs on these maps, and a lot of them are outside your base. So if you try and go tanks, it can be very hard to respond. You end up getting sort of hemmed in from every side. You could try and compensate using air alongside your docks, but I think that doesn't tend to work out as well in my experience. Certainly, every game I've been in, I've seen opposition go straight for they've gone straight for bots. The game's launching now, so let's go straight in there. The action on. Tarkan system with its 100. There we go. Let me find my words. It's 100 metal. We see here that indeed there's some fairly substantial spread out metal all over this map, which makes it so ideal for raiding.
Well, it's fairly spread out, but it tends to spread out more in clumps rather than sporadic extractor points. You can see that you've got groups of metal extractors, which makes it ideal for, as you say, for raiding, but your expansions are slightly more defensible by the same token.
Well, it depends, because they're so far away from your main base. I mean, both players, again, there's only one spawn per team, so you're going to see a spawn there, and you're going to see a spawn over here. And so there's a lot of mechs that's miles away from those bases, and try and defend that with anything other than docks is going to be very hard. You're going to have to respond a lot. There's so much metal out there on the field.
Alright, the players are in. Now let's have a look. What have we got first? Bots from the blue team. Vehicles, bots from the orange team. Techno trousers in orange.
Yeah, I already prefer the opening of the blue team then. I think bots are the way to go. You get some bots, you get some air. Vehicles, I'd be surprised to see them be a factor on this map, and both players from the orange team going for vehicles there, and that's, yeah, I don't like that. I don't think Techno Trousers are making a good call with that one.
Well, I suppose the proof of the pudding will be in the eating.
Oh, good.
See how they oh well. Do you want me to start getting scones out as well? Will that make your day complete?
Oh, it really would. It would really round off my day if we break up the scones versus crumpets. Let's do this. Roll those sleeves.
What do you mean versus crumpets?
Yeah, with crumpets would win. Anyway.
Yeah, of course they would. What sort of stupid argument would that be?
So we see now that yeah, heavy vehicle presence. We've got one bot factory. So I guess they're going to try and raid with that and then make a big tank push. But I think already you see mass docks coming out now from mass docks coming out from Ponage, and early scouting coming in here from Techno Trousers already into the blue base. They've seen what's up, they see the docks, they see the air. Expect to see them bringing out their own air factory soon.
I see what you mean, where you've got the two bases are, so they have almost, the lava is just an obstruction which you have to go around to get to your opponent. And I can see why having the docks, particularly with that little passageway in the middle, is very, very useful. You can switch fronts in a moment, in an instant. Whereas with vehicles, you're very limited. Once you're committed down a certain approach, that's it.
Well, there's quite a bit of metal off to the sides. I mean, there's metal between the bases, but because of the nature of the map, it's quite open. There's a lot of open ground on one side of the planet, You're really hard to lock anything down with tanks, and their range isn't that big compared to the size of this planet. So it's very easy for the docks to run around. You just expand everywhere, docks are raiding everywhere, and before you know it, yeah, the tanks are going to beat the docks in a stand-up fight, but suddenly your opponent's got about 10 times as many docks as you have tanks.
And they're in the wrong place.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot of movement on this map, and I think that tanks, if you have maybe a small force of tanks and you lock down one side with them, but it's just so easy for the docks to slip through. We already see that Ponage is running around everywhere with docks now.
They are covering the map.
Yeah,
they're defending all of these points, all of the metal points. They're just stationing a few docks at each so that they know if Techno Trousers are planning to expand into any of those fields in particular.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Ponage take an eco lead quite quickly once they start expanding further out, and we see that Techno Trousers can't respond in kind. But Techno Trousers making some nice raiding with their own docks there. Ponage left themselves a little vulnerable, dodging the first bomber. Going to see some micro hit. Yep, dodging the bomber, but dodging away from the mechs, unfortunately.
Oh,
no, I don't think they're going to have the docks to take down the next metal extractor, and no, that raid is over. But they're using that opportunity. They're starting to sneak up with tanks. And seeing Grenadiers come out from Ponage, very big surprise. I don't know if they're anticipating Techno Trousers going for a more defensive wall approach because they have the vehicles. It's the only reason I can think of to have Grenadiers. They can kite the vehicles, but they don't do enough damage really to justify it, especially not with docks on the field.
Grenadiers are an interesting proposition, but I think that currently they don't have the strength as a value proposition compared to docks.
They have very specialised usage. The very few circumstances we're going to want to use Grenadiers, I think. People have been experimenting with them against tanks, but I don't think they've proven to be particularly effective. If you have very specific choke points and you want almost a mobile pelter force, then maybe, but the second that the enemy emerges from behind their walls and comes at you, the Grenadiers are once again relatively useless. They're so easily overwhelmed. It's one shot, one kill against a Grenadier. So that could help the tank force become more relevant on the field, because the Grenadiers are far more defensive than the sort of bot players anticipating seeing from Ponage.
That said, I can see they are trying to expand rapidly as they can with the trying to get their metal extractors, but that said, they've just done that and the tanks now starting to roll in, walls going up. They are playing quite defensively for the sort of crescent here.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see with such a docks heavy effort they've gone vehicles as well, which again I'm not sure I like that play. I think with the eco you get with two players you can really make your opponent suffer with just hard docks pushes straight into their base. Just keep them on their toes, keep them on the back foot, and meanwhile expand out while their tanks are dancing to your tune.
You can see that Techno Trousers are trying to kite, and they are successfully kiting those Grenadiers out from behind the walls. The auto chase.
Yeah, you see how many of those Grenadier shots are missing as well. Just how many, the slightest movement of the tanks, and suddenly those Grenadiers are achieving nothing. And really, Grenadiers should be used to fire over the enemy walls. You don't need your own walls to do that. You can just put your own tank force behind it. But
so these tanks are just... Yeah.
Mistake by Techno Trousers here, though, getting this close in. Should have carried them kiting around the edge. That moving in like that was a mistake. They should have gone around the edge, taken the Fabber, come and hit it from behind. They were dodging beautifully, and that's lost them quite a lot of troops there.
Interesting at the moment, seeing a significant economic lead from Techno Trousers.
Unfortunately, they can't give it those exchanges. We look at the metal loss graph of that fight. Much bigger hit against the Techno Trousers in orange.
That was some poor play on their part, though. Very poor play. Those ants, bolos, I mean, should definitely have not got that close.
Ponage got docks everywhere, but they're not expanding very aggressively. Very Fabber-like game so far. We got only 11 Fabbers out from Ponage and 7 Fabbers out from Techno Trousers. I would expect to see the docks team expanding far more aggressively than they're doing right now. Really to go out and grab those mechs so they can completely outmaneuver the tank player. If they let the tank player mess up and dictate the play, then they're not going to come out well. Docks cannot go head to head. Docks work simply by possessing more of the field and raid and hitting your opponent from every angle.
Meanwhile, we now have a little raid coming in from Techno Trousers. Not a very big raid. Plenty of forces there to stop it. I don't think they scouted that properly. They were just checking to see whether there were any metal extractors there.
I do not like this defensive position here from Ponage. I think this is a great big mistake. they're built up a wall. It's not even in front of the majority of the metal in this area, and they're letting Technocharz's tank force just to mass up in a very predictable location. And this is really going to suit the Bolo play here. The Grenadiers already showing themselves to be relatively ineffective in that confrontation, but we're still seeing more Grenadiers come through, but there's nothing for them to fight against, and the pelter of Technochars is up now, just lodging this position, already hammering the Fabbers and Bolos that are there. Technochars really seem to be playing this map better.
Which is surprising, considering you were very against their vehicle play initially.
I did not like it at all, but I don't. I think that Ponage are playing into it. Really, they've got a very mobile force, and they're not using it as a mobile force. In actual fact, Technocharzers are the one who are making the mobile moves, and they're allowing Technocharzers to form these lines, building a defensive line when you've gone for a docks heavy play, and then they've transitioned into vehicles anyway. I would much prefer to see them go for very heavy docks play.
There is no anti-air in this force at all. Big
well, there's
mistake.
fighters closing in though. They've got fighters nearby coming down. They can pick off those bombs if they play it right. They've got more fighters than Ponage has, and that's closed down pretty quickly. They should have just kept advancing with the tanks, really.
An unnecessary loss. Just a single or even two spinners in that force would have completely dissuaded those bombers from just hovering there.
Well, I think there was a much bigger loss for Ponage though. They lost a lot more air than there were tanks. But retreating, the pelts have gone up from Ponage now shelling that force. Ponage need to. Oh, but in actual fact, Ponage have lost. Technocharzers have lost their own pelter. Lost the pelter counterfire, it would seem.
Blimey.
But Technocharzers sensibly just going around the side here. They're not even going to attack that position this time. Much better play. Just keep going around the side, draw out the Grenadier force, and frankly blow it to pieces.
That said, that those tanks are in a big enough blob that the Grenadier fire, inaccurate as it is still very likely to hit stuff as it comes in.
Yeah, I see though that almost all those Grenadiers dying now. It's a
that's not a favourable trade in metal.
It was about even. It was about even for them there. But Technocharzers withdrawing again. But even in Eco now, which is both teams starting to form up. They're holding the checks, very cautious play. I think we've seen that across this tournament as well. A lot of very cautious play on these maps. I was expecting to see some more, especially on a map this open. I mean, this is like original PA going on here. Very open map, lots of spread out, not many chokes. Expecting to see much more aggressive play, but it really does feel like Technocharzers is dictating the play here. We see here this huge air force coming out. All those mechs could fall, and once again give Technocharzers the economic lead.
But I think, to be honest with you, I can sort of understand the defensive play to a degree here, because when you're playing for $200, you don't want to be making any mistakes. Like, $200 is quite a big sum of money.
I think that over-cautioning this is a nice radar here from Technocharzers. It's really got great visibility of the entire base now of Ponage. They can see everything that's going on. Really pushing deep, actually. Ponage is starting to look a little hemmed in at this point. Some nice play here from Technocharzers. Really impressed with them.
I can't see, apart from a few cat-handed manoeuvres around the forward base there with the walls and the pelter, I can't see that they've really put too many feet wrong on this. They've had quite a disciplined, well thought through game. Yeah,
I mean, I don't like the. I'm not really a big fan of going for vehicles on this map, but their opponents played to them going vehicles, and I think they've made better use of the troops that they've got. It feels like Ponage are making some silly mistakes just in troop composition, almost, and Ponage are really making a better use of the troops that they've got. I would like to see them perhaps be a little more aggressive in taking these areas, but it might be that it's in range of the pelter. It's hard to say. But again, look how close they get their air force. They get in there and they're just taking out metal that should be under the control of Ponage, and it's just not. Technocharzers just pushing them back. Look at that eco lead building up now.
And they're still raiding more as they go. Apart from the odd bomber, which is getting some good lucky shots on those docks, so many exposed metal positions. Ponage.
Absolutely. I mean, they look like they're controlling the ground game. They've got the larger air force. I'm really impressed with using the air force as well, denying Ponage any opportunity to break out. They're using it as the way that you normally use docks here. They're running around the edges. They're constantly rescouting the metal. They're making sure that any attempt to build up a defensive line is getting shut down. They're making a push over here. And look at the bombers out, blowing up the turret before it could even get created. It's just really well
slick.
done.
It's slick.
Yeah, it is. They're coordinating really well.
You said earlier, Max is very, very good. Mothra, sorry, Mothra. I'm going to call him Mothra, not Max, because that's what he's going to buy. Mothra is very good at the very, very detailed play, sometimes getting tunnel vision, but I feel like CDRKF has a much broader strategic overview, and it may well be that he's coordinating on a macro level and letting Mothra dive in on a micro level. And I think that, as that synergy, which you identified earlier, could well be what's enabling this to be as effective as it is.
Opponents are putting a lot of resources into holding this location, and Technotrans, to be quite honest, just aren't investing a lot in attacking it. They're breaking a lot of forces now, breaking around the other side where there are no defences, and that's where they've been sending their army. And Tier 2 trying to go up here from Pwnage. I'm not really sure they're going to get away with that. And nicely picked up there by Technotrans. Seeing it's happening, they're bombing out the Fabbers trying to make it, and then that's the second attempt the Pwnage have made to go Tier 2, and it's the second time it's been shut down.
They're just all over this. That is such good use of that air. That air has been absolutely invaluable. Just picking out all of the valuable bits. Just chip away.
Yeah, and the lead between the two teams growing now. Eco-wise, it's about 100 apart. Army-wise, 100 apart. In production, they're not that different, but every confrontation, I think Technotrans is coming out better. Let's have a look at the... Well, it doesn't metal loss. They're about even in how they're using their forces. Technotrans is coming out slightly ahead, but they're just picking their plays so well, and they're just stopping Pwnage from breaking out at all. And we see a poor little Fabber here from Pwnage trying to find somewhere to expand to, and he's finding nothing but Technotrousers.
Well, he could start reclaiming if he wanted to, I guess.
I think no one's paying attention to him. They're probably watching the front lines. But yeah, she slap down a turret there and free up some mechs before Technotrousers notice he's there and go bomb him.
Which they've been absolutely... They've been lethal with those things. Just anything, any vaguely vulnerable target, bomb instantly.
I see that Pwnage is just trying to make a breakout here, they're trying to push out, but Technotrousers are there ready to meet them. They've destroyed a couple of mechs, but maybe a laser turret or two, but really not very successful. Didn't get very far beyond those walls. A lot of spinners in there to counter the air force, and you notice the Technotrousers have no spinners in their force because they control the air, so they don't need to, giving them a big advantage in these ground confrontations. And indeed, at the back of Pwnage's base, or I should say on the other side, this is a sphere. You see Technotrans now just in amongst the production, starting to rip this to pieces. There are no troops here. Troops are all on the other side, just dying in that confrontation with Technotrans. In actual fact, the armies of Pwnage have melted away. Technotrans are everywhere, ripping through these bases. This does look like the end for Pwnage.
That commander is horribly exposed. He's getting some gloomy cannons off there, but they're just going to pull back, pull up these reinforcements here. Those lot all come together, that commander could be done for.
There's only 2 Fabbers left now for Pwnage. They've got nothing that they can recover using. They need to get some more out there, but they've got to get the troops up as well. And we see a teleporter going up from Technotrousers, trying to bring their forces to the front lines faster now. We see the next one queued up over here, right by the, well, surprisingly, by the air factory. Probably not the best placement, but, you know, faster than the direct route, I guess. But just troops everywhere now. They're taking
2
down
Fabbers,
all
that's all they've got left. They actually have only got 2 Fabbers left in their entire army across the entire planet. That is incredible. Yeah,
they've just lost so much. But where would the Fabbers go anywhere? There's nowhere for them to expand to. The Technotrousers are now pushing in from every side. The air is raiding. Can't push as deep as it once could because there's a lot more spinners now. And Raptors call in the GG, and I think that's quite sensible. I don't see a route back here for Pwnage. They completely contained. They got no opportunity.
1 down, 2 down.
GG.
That was just, they were just completely overwhelmed on all fronts there. And I have to say, that air raiding by Technotrousers was exceptionally good. Absolutely exceptional.
I was very impressed with that. I thought they played it nice. I said I didn't think tanks were going to be a good choice here. I'm still not convinced the tanks were a great choice, but I think they played tanks well. And this map...
I don't think I would say that they played tanks well. I'd say that they played tanks and air well. They managed to synergize the two quite well together.
No, yeah, I think you're right. They used the air to lock down any of the outsides, and they just hammered through with tanks. I'll be interested to see if they take the same approach on the next map, which I think is even more docks. I think it's even more docks friendly than this one is. As we saw here, there's some direct routes, a lot of metal between the bases, and they punched through and took it, and then they just used air to stop any attempt from Pwnage to break out. Pwnage, I feel, almost played into Technotrousers' victory there by making mistakes like building the Grenadiers, by switching over to vehicles. I think if they kept going docks, it would have put them in a strong position. I mean, early on they were taking small eco leads, they were all over the map, they had eyes on all the expansion points, and then they switched to Grenadiers and suddenly they went very defensive. Almost, they built up that wall line, which really felt like a big mistake, because it wasn't even holding most of the metal in that area.
I feel like, that in many ways, what actually ended up happening in that game, even though Techno Trousers went vehicle first, they used the air to make up for the shortcomings on that map of a vehicle composite army. So in essence, they were playing a bot-type game with vehicles, and I felt like the other team were actually playing a vehicle-type game using bots. They were using bots like you would expect them to use tanks, which just doesn't work because they don't have the armor to sit there and be stationary defensive units. They are for raiding, they are for aggressive play. You don't have bots as defensive units because they just can't stand up to the punishment that comes in. And I feel like that's what they tried to do.
Yeah, I thought they didn't use they ended up mixing their force a bit and just went for almost like a bit of everything, and it didn't really work out. It almost felt like they had a plan with the all bot opening, and then they deviated from it. They threw in some Grenadiers, they threw in some Bolos, and I didn't really like that approach. It didn't feel like that was the right way for them to go.